The massive chamber aboard the Nexus station hummed with quiet energy, as beings from across the galaxy gathered for what they believed would be another routine integration meeting. The circular hall stretched 300 meters across, with seating arranged in gentle curves to accommodate the various body types of the Galactic Harmony Council members. Ambassador. Taemin Kim adjusted his dark blue diplomatic uniform as he walked toward the human delegation area. His steps echoed softly on the polished metal floor. Behind him followed Dr. So-Young Park, carrying a data pad filled with scientific reports about human biology and culture. Captain Han-Sol Lee brought up the rear, his military bearing obvious even in civilian clothes. Taemin had spent months preparing for this moment. Earth had waited over 2 years since first contact to receive this invitation. The Galactic Harmony Council was known throughout the local systems as a peaceful alliance of species who had achieved prosperity through cooperation and shared resources. Joining them would mean access to advanced technology, interstellar trade routes, and protection under their collective security agreements. The 3 humans took their assigned seats in the lower tier of the amphitheater. Around them, dozens of alien species chatted quietly in their native languages. The sounds ranged from melodic chirping to low harmonic vibrations that Taemin could feel in his chest. Dr. Park leaned over to whisper in Korean. The tall blue ones near the center are Kethrani. They evolved from herd animals on a planet with massive grasslands. Very peaceful. They have been leading the council for over 800 years. Taemin nodded, studying the graceful beings with their long necks and gentle movements. Their leader, Velthari, stood nearly 3 meters tall with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the chamber's soft lighting. Large, dark eyes dominated her elongated face, and her movements reminded Taemin of deer he had seen in Earth's forests. The crystalline species are Quarthan, Dr. Park continued. They absorb minerals from their planet's soil and convert sunlight into energy. Never had to hunt or even gather food in the traditional sense, and those aquatic beings are Gelshi. They filter nutrients from water and have never known scarcity. Captain Lee remained silent but alert, his eyes constantly scanning the chamber. His military training made him automatically assess exits, security measures, and potential threats. The lack of visible weapons or guards struck him as unusual but not necessarily concerning. A soft chime filled the chamber, and conversations gradually died down. Velthari rose from her position at the center of the assembly, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic design. Honored beings, we gather today to welcome our potential new members from the 3rd planet of the Sol system. The species that calls itself humanity has requested integration into our alliance. Murmurs of interest rippled through the assembled delegates. Taemin felt a mix of pride and nervousness as hundreds of alien eyes turned toward the human delegation. Ambassador Kim, Velthari continued, please present your species' credentials and intentions. Taemin rose smoothly and walked to the speaking platform at the chamber's center. The platform was designed for various species heights, automatically adjusting to bring him to the optimal level for address the assembly. Honored council members, he began, his voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. Humanity comes before you as a young species eager to learn and contribute to galactic peace. We bring scientific knowledge, cultural diversity, and a strong desire to cooperate with our fellow sentient beings. He activated a holographic display showing images of Earth. Lush forests, vast oceans, and sprawling cities appeared in the air above the platform. The alien delegates leaned forward with interest, studying the blue and green world that had produced humanity. Our planet has taught us the value of working together, Taemin continued. We have learned to overcome conflicts through diplomacy and shared purpose. We seek to bring these lessons to a larger community. Several council members nodded approvingly. The Kethrani delegate in particular seemed pleased with humanity's emphasis on cooperation and peaceful intentions. Dr. Park joined Taemin on the platform when invited to present humanity's scientific contributions. She displayed charts showing human achievements in medicine, technology, and space exploration. Her presentation focused on humanity's problem-solving abilities and adaptability. Humans excel at finding solutions to complex challenges, she explained. Our species developed on a world with diverse environments and changing conditions. This taught us to adapt quickly and think creatively when faced with obstacles. The scientific data impressed many delegates. The Quarthan representative, Zefton, asked several detailed questions about human research methods and technological development. His crystalline form pulsed with different colors as he processed the information. When Captain Lee's turn came to discuss human security capabilities, the atmosphere in the chamber shifted slightly. He approached the topic carefully, knowing that the Council's member species had long ago evolved beyond the need for military forces. Humanity maintains defensive capabilities to protect our world and people, he began. Our history includes periods of conflict, but we have learned to channel our competitive nature into productive pursuits like sports, exploration, and scientific advancement. He displayed images of human athletes competing in various sports, emphasizing how physical competition had replaced warfare as an outlet for human competitive drives. The alien delegates watched with curiosity as humans ran, jumped, and engaged in various athletic contests. We also maintain traditions of hunting for food and survival skills, Captain Lee continued, not realizing the subtle tension his words created among some delegates. These practices help humans stay connected to their natural abilities and maintain physical fitness. Dr. Park quickly added, these activities are mostly recreational now. Most humans obtain food through agriculture and advanced food production systems. The presentation continued for another hour, covering human art, philosophy, and social structures. The council members asked polite questions and seemed generally satisfied with humanity's qualifications for membership. As the formal presentations concluded, Velthari announced that the council would spend the next several days reviewing humanity's application. The delegates would have opportunities for informal discussions with the human representatives during this period. Timon felt cautiously optimistic as the session ended. The questions had been reasonable, and most council members seemed genuinely interested in establishing peaceful relations with humanity. However, he noticed that some delegates had exchanged concerned glances when Captain Lee mentioned hunting and survival skills. Dr. Park had also observed this reaction, though she attributed it to simple cultural differences rather than any serious concern. As the three humans left the chamber, they felt they had made a strong first impression. The path to joining the Galactic Harmony Council seemed clear and straightforward. They had no way of knowing that their casual references to human hunting traditions had planted seeds of unease in minds that had never known predators. The peaceful species of the Council were about to begin a journey of discovery about humanity that would challenge everything they believed about civilized society. 3 months had passed since humanity's initial presentation to the Galactic Harmony Council. The probationary membership was progressing smoothly, or so it seemed to the humans involved. Cultural Exchange Officer Ji-Hoon Yoon arrived at Nexus Station with high hopes and several cargo containers filled with what he considered the finest examples of human civilization. Ji-Hoon was a cheerful man in his early 30s who had spent years working with different cultures on Earth. He understood the importance of finding common ground between different groups of people. His job was to help the alien species understand humanity better while learning about their customs in return. The Cultural Exchange Center was a beautiful space with high ceilings and large windows showing the stars beyond. Ji-Hoon spent his first week setting up displays of human art, music, literature, and entertainment. He arranged everything carefully, wanting to make the best possible impression on his new alien colleagues. On his first official presentation day, representatives from 12 different species gathered to learn about human culture. Ji-Hoon started with what he thought would be safe topics. He showed them paintings from Earth's great masters, played classical music, and displayed examples of human poetry, translated into galactic common language. The aliens seemed interested but not particularly impressed. Art and music were common throughout the galaxy, though human versions had their own unique style. Ji-Hoon noticed that the delegates remained polite but distant during these presentations. Hoping to generate more enthusiasm, Ji-Hoon decided to show them human sports and physical activities. He began with what he considered mild examples. Track and field events, swimming competitions, and gymnastics appeared on the large display screen. The alien delegates watched with growing confusion as humans ran, jumped, and performed complex physical movements. Counselor Mirthlin of the aquatic Gelshi species raised a webbed hand to ask a question. "Excuse me, Ji-Hoon, but why are these humans moving so quickly and jumping so high? Are they trying to escape from something dangerous?" Ji-Hoon laughed. thinking the question was charming in its innocence. No, these are competitions. Humans enjoy testing their physical abilities against each other. We call it sports. It helps us stay healthy and provides entertainment. The explanation did not seem to satisfy the delegates. They exchanged glances and whispered among themselves in their native languages. Ji-hoon could not understand their words, but their body language suggested confusion and perhaps mild concern. Encouraged by what he interpreted as interest, Ji-hoon moved on to more exciting human activities. He showed them boxing matches, martial arts demonstrations, and wrestling competitions. The reaction in the room changed dramatically. Several delegates physically recoiled from the images of humans striking each other with their fists and grappling on the ground. The crystalline Quarthan representative Zefton began pulsing with rapid red flashes that Ji-hoon had learned indicated extreme agitation. "These humans are hurting each other," whispered Velthari, her large eyes wide with shock. "Why would they do this for entertainment?" Ji-hoon realized he might have made an error in judgment. He quickly tried to explain. "These are controlled competitions with strict rules and safety measures. The participants train for years and know how to avoid serious injury. It is about skill, strategy, and physical conditioning." His explanations seemed to make things worse rather than better. The idea that humans would spend years learning how to fight each other more effectively horrified the peaceful alien species. Hoping to shift to safer ground, Ji-hoon decided to show them human documentaries about nature and history. He selected what he thought would be educational and interesting programs about early human development and survival techniques. The first documentary focused on persistence hunting, an ancient human technique where hunters would track prey animals for days until the animals became exhausted. The film showed early humans following herds across vast distances, using their superior endurance and intelligence to eventually capture food. The reaction in the room was immediate and intense. Several delegates stood up and began speaking rapidly to each other in their own languages. Others simply stared at the screen in what appeared to be horror. Ji-hoon watched in confusion as the documentary explained how humans had evolved as persistence predators, capable of tracking and hunting animals much larger and faster than themselves. The narrator discussed how human intelligence, teamwork, and tool use had made them incredibly effective hunters. "Turn it off," said Velthari, her voice shaking. "Please turn off this recording." Ji-hoon quickly stopped the documentary, but the damage was already done. The assembled delegates were clearly upset by what they had seen. He tried to explain that this was ancient history, that modern humans obtained their food through farming and technology. "But you still remember how to do these things," said Mirthlin, her aquatic features showing clear distress. "Your species retains the knowledge and abilities of predators." "Well, yes," Ji-hoon admitted, not understanding why this was so troubling. "Many humans enjoy camping, hiking, and survival training as hobbies. Some people hunt for sport or food, though it is not necessary for survival anymore." The admission that humans still practiced hunting as a recreational activity sent another wave of alarm through the alien delegates. Species that had evolved from prey animals found the very concept terrifying. The idea that intelligent beings would hunt and kill other creatures for enjoyment challenged their fundamental understanding of civilized behavior. Over the following days, word of Ji-hoon's cultural presentations spread throughout the station. Rumors grew and changed as they passed from species to species. By the end of the week, some aliens believed that humans were barely contained predators who might turn violent at any moment. Ji-hoon found himself increasingly isolated as alien staff members began avoiding him in the corridors. Meetings were canceled or postponed without explanation. When he tried to ask what was wrong, he received only nervous responses about scheduling conflicts and technical difficulties. Dr. Park arrived at the station to help address the growing concerns. She brought scientific data about human evolution and behavior, hoping to provide a more balanced understanding of human nature. However, her clinical explanations of human hunting techniques and predatory instincts only reinforced the aliens' fears. "You must understand," Dr. Park explained to a small group of council scientists, "humans evolved as omnivores with both predatory and cooperative traits. Our hunting abilities are balanced by strong social bonds and empathy for others." The alien scientists listened politely but remained clearly uncomfortable with the discussion. The concept of a species that combined predatory capabilities with advanced intelligence was deeply disturbing to beings whose own Evolution had led them away from violence entirely. As the second month of cultural exchange drew to a close, Ji-hoon realized that his mission was not going as planned. Instead of bringing species together through understanding, he had inadvertently revealed aspects of human nature that terrified their potential allies. The seeds of fear that had been planted during humanity's initial presentation were now growing into serious concerns about human intentions and capabilities. The Galactic Harmony Council was beginning to question whether a predatory species could ever truly be trusted to maintain the peace they had worked so hard to achieve. Commander Eugene Choi stepped off the transport shuttle onto the surface of Kepler 442b, with confidence in her mission. The planet was a perfect testing ground for human colonization efforts, with dense forests, flowing rivers, and abundant wildlife. Her team of 24 colonists had been selected to demonstrate human adaptability and self-sufficiency to the Galactic Council. The mission seemed straightforward. Spend 2 weeks on the planet using only basic tools and survival skills to establish a temporary settlement. The exercise would prove that humans could thrive in new environments without depending heavily on advanced technology. This kind of independence was highly valued by the Council, whose member species prided themselves on sustainable living. What Eugene did not know was that hidden observation drones were recording everything. The Council had decided to monitor human behavior when they thought no one was watching. After the disturbing cultural presentations by Ji-hoon, several Council members wanted proof that humans could control their predatory instincts. Eugene gathered her team on the first morning to assign roles and establish basic procedures. The group included engineers, biologists, farmers, and general colonists who had volunteered for the survival exercise. All of them had completed extensive training in wilderness survival and primitive living skills. Remember, we are here to show that humans can adapt to new environments while respecting local ecosystems, Eugene announced to her team. We will build shelter, find water sources, and gather food using sustainable methods. Dr. Yoon-hae Shin, the expedition's biologist, had already begun studying the local plant and animal life. She carried instruments to test which plants were safe to eat and which animals posed potential threats or opportunities. Her scientific approach impressed the hidden observers initially. The first few days went smoothly. The humans built efficient shelters using fallen branches and leaves. They created tools from stones and wood. They established a clean water source and began identifying edible plants. To the Council observers, these activities seemed reasonable and non-threatening. However, by the fourth day, the gathered plants and fruits were not providing enough calories for the physically active humans. Eugene made the decision that would change everything. She authorized hunting parties to supplement their food supply. The humans organized themselves with practiced efficiency that alarmed the watching aliens. They formed small groups of 3 or 4 people each with specific roles assigned to each member. Some carried improvised spears while others brought snares and nets they had constructed from plant fibers. Dr. Shin took detailed notes as the hunting parties tracked local animals through the forest. She explained to her recorder that humans were following animal trails, reading signs like footprints and droppings, and predicting where prey animals would go to drink water or rest. The key to successful hunting is understanding animal behavior, she spoke into her recording device, unaware that alien observers were analyzing every word. Humans developed excellent pattern recognition skills that allow us to predict where animals will be and how they will react to our presence. The first successful hunt happened on the 5th day. A team led by colonist Minho Park managed to trap a deer-like creature near a stream. The animal was roughly the size of a large dog, with 6 legs and thick fur adapted for the planet's cooler climate. The alien observers watched in fascination and horror as the humans quickly and efficiently processed their kill. They worked together with smooth coordination, each person knowing exactly what to do without being told. Some prepared the meat while others treated the hide and saved useful bones. Eugene supervised the process while explaining proper field dressing techniques to younger team members. Her instructions were practical and detailed, covering how to preserve meat in warm weather, which parts of the animal were safest to eat, and how to use every part of the carcass to avoid waste. From the aliens' perspective, the humans appeared to transform into a pack of efficient predators. The casual way they handled dead animals and discussed hunting strategies triggered deep, evolutionary fears in species that had spent millions of years avoiding such creatures. Dr. Shin made matters worse by providing scientific commentary on human hunting methods. She described how early humans had hunted animals much larger than themselves using intelligence, teamwork, and persistence. Her clinical explanations of tracking techniques and kill methods sounded terrifying to alien ears. Notice how Minho approaches from downwind, she narrated as another hunting party set out. Humans have relatively poor scent detection compared to many animals, but we understand that prey species rely heavily on smell for danger detection. By controlling our scent trail, we can get much closer to our targets. The systematic nature of human hunting impressed and frightened the observers in equal measure. These were not desperate creatures killing for survival. They were intelligent predators who had turned hunting into a science and appeared to enjoy the challenge. Over the following days, the human colony became increasingly efficient at obtaining meat. They developed better traps, improved their tracking skills, and began smoking meat to preserve it for future use. Some colonists even started experimenting with different cooking methods to improve the taste of their meals. The aliens watched with growing alarm as humans demonstrated their ability to read landscapes, predict animal movements, and coordinate complex group hunts. Several observation drones captured footage of humans pursuing prey animals for hours, using their superior endurance to exhaust creatures that were initially much faster. Yu-Jin remained focused on her mission objectives. Unaware of the fear she was generating among alien observers, she was proud of her team's performance and believed they were demonstrating exactly the kind of adaptability and resourcefulness that the Council valued. Dr. Shin continued her detailed documentation of human survival techniques, treating the exercise as a valuable research opportunity. She recorded information about local ecology, human nutritional needs, and the effectiveness of different hunting strategies in alien environments. On the 12th day, the observation drones captured footage that would change humanity's relationship with the Galactic Council forever. A large predator native to Kepler 442b approached the human camp, apparently drawn by the scent of processed meat. The creature resembled a cross between a bear and a large cat. Standing nearly 2 meters tall with powerful claws and sharp teeth, it had been apex predator on this world for millions of years and had never encountered serious competition. The humans' response to this threat revealed their true nature to the horrified alien observers. Instead of fleeing or hiding, they immediately organized a defensive formation. Yu-Jin quickly assigned roles while colonists grabbed weapons and moved to protect the camp's supplies and equipment. The confrontation was brief but decisive. The alien predator found itself facing organized opposition for the first time in its evolutionary history. The humans used coordinated tactics, diversion techniques, and superior intelligence to drive off the creature without anyone being seriously injured. To the watching aliens, the encounter proved that humans were not just predators themselves, but predators capable of defeating other apex predators through teamwork and intelligence. The implications were terrifying for species whose ancestors had spent millennia hiding from such creatures. Word of the hunting demonstration spread quickly through the Council's communication networks. What had been intended as a simple test of human adaptability had become proof that humanity retained all of their predatory instincts and skills. The peaceful species of the galactic harmony, Council now faced a question that challenged their fundamental beliefs about civilized behavior. Could a species that hunted for pleasure and fought apex predators ever truly be trusted to maintain peace? The emergency session of the Galactic Harmony Council convened just 3 days after the hunting demonstration footage reached Nexus Station. Ambassador Taemin Kim sat in the designated human area, feeling the weight of hundreds of alien eyes upon him. The atmosphere in the Great Chamber had changed dramatically from his first visit months earlier. Belthari stood at the center podium, her usually graceful movements sharp with tension. Her large eyes, normally gentle and welcoming, now showed obvious fear as she addressed the assembly. The other council members shifted nervously in their seats, creating a constant whisper of movement throughout the chamber. "Fellow council members," Belthari began, her voice carrying clearly but lacking its previous warmth. "We have gathered to discuss troubling evidence regarding our newest applicant species. The footage from Kepler 442b raises serious questions about human nature and intentions." The central display activated, showing edited clips from the survival exercise. The council members watched in tense silence as humans tracked animals through forests, coordinated hunting parties, and efficiently processed their kills. To species that had evolved beyond predatory behavior millions of years ago, the images were deeply disturbing. Counselor Zefton of the crystalline Quarthan species pulsed rapidly through the color spectrum as he rose to speak. His voice resonated with harmonic overtones that indicated extreme agitation. "These recordings confirm our worst suspicions," he declared. "Humans have not evolved beyond their predatory instincts. They retain the skills, mindset, and apparent enjoyment of hunting that we believed were myths from their primitive past." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. Ambassador Taman felt his heart sinking as he realized how badly his species was being misunderstood. He requested permission to respond, but Velthari gestured for him to wait. "There is more evidence to consider," she announced. Another section of footage began playing, showing the confrontation with the native predator. The council members watched in shocked silence as humans organized defensive positions and drove off a creature that would have terrorized most civilized species. Dr. Park, who had been quietly taking notes, leaned over to whisper to Taemin in Korean. "They see cooperation and intelligence as predatory traits. They do not understand that these same abilities can be used for protection and peace." Counselor Mirthlin of the aquatic Gelshi species spoke next, her webbed hands trembling as she gestured toward the display. "Look at how quickly they organized against the native predator. These are not the actions of a peaceful species defending themselves. These are the tactics of apex predators protecting their territory." The assembled delegates began speaking among themselves in dozens of different languages. The translations flowing through Taemin's earpiece painted a disturbing picture of fear and suspicion. Words like dangerous and deceptive and threat appeared repeatedly in the conversations. Velthari called for order and continued her presentation. "Our xenobiologists have analyzed human cultural materials, survival footage, and biological data. Their conclusions are deeply concerning for our alliance." A new display showed comparative evolutionary charts. Human development was contrasted with the peaceful species of the Council, highlighting the retention of predatory characteristics that other species had long ago abandoned. Every member species of this council evolved beyond the need for predatory behavior, Velthari explained. "We achieved intelligence and civilization by developing cooperation, empathy, and peaceful coexistence. Humans appear to have achieved intelligence while retaining their predatory nature." The fear in the chamber was now palpable. Representatives of species that had known only peace for countless generations were confronting their deepest evolutionary nightmare. The possibility that intelligent predators might exist had been discussed in theoretical terms, but never seriously considered as a reality they might face. Zefton pulsed deep red as he presented additional evidence. Human entertainment includes simulated combat. Their sports involve physical conflict, and their cultural stories frequently celebrate violence and conquest. Even their diplomatic representative, he gestured toward Captain Lee, maintains military rank and speaks casually of hunting traditions. Captain Lee had remained silent throughout the session, but now he rose to address the council. His military bearing, which had seemed professional before, now appeared threatening to the assembled aliens. "Honored council members," he began, his voice steady despite the hostile atmosphere, "I believe there has been a fundamental misunderstanding about human nature and intentions." "Is it a misunderstanding that your species maintains military forces?" interrupted Mirthlin. "Is it a misunderstanding that you practice hunting for recreation? Is it a misunderstanding that you fought and defeated an apex predator without showing fear?" Captain Lee paused, realizing that simple denial would not address the council's concerns. "These things are true, but they do not represent aggression toward peaceful species. Humans use these abilities to protect ourselves and others." His words did not have the intended effect. Several council members interpreted "protect others" as a veiled threat, suggesting that humans saw themselves as guardians of lesser species. The session continued for hours as council members presented their evidence and concerns. They discussed historical patterns of predatory species in their own evolution, theoretical studies about apex predators, and their deepest fears about what humans might represent. Ambassador Taemin finally received permission to address the assembly. He walked to the central podium, feeling the weight of his species' future on his shoulders. The chamber fell silent as he prepared to defend humanity against accusations that struck at the core of human nature. "Respected council members," he began. "I understand your concerns, but I ask you to consider the full picture of human behavior. Yes, we retain abilities from our evolutionary past, but we have learned to use these traits constructively." He activated his own display, showing human peacekeeping efforts, disaster relief operations, and cooperative scientific projects. Humans use our organizational skills and quick thinking to help others in crisis situations. Our military forces maintain peace and protect civilian populations. The presentation continued with examples of human cooperation, diplomacy, and scientific achievement. Taman emphasized humanity's desire for peaceful coexistence and mutual benefit with other species. However, his words seemed to fall on deaf ears. The council members had already formed their opinions based on the hunting footage and cultural evidence. They saw human peacekeeping as potential conquest preparation and human cooperation as pack behavior. Dr. Park joined Tae-min at the podium to provide scientific context. Human predatory traits are balanced by equally strong cooperative and empathetic instincts, she explained. We form strong social bonds, care for our young collectively, and show compassion for other species. But you still hunt, interrupted Veltari. You still maintain weapons. You still teach your young the skills of predators. How can we trust a species that refuses to evolve beyond violence? The question hung in the air like a physical weight. The council members waited for an answer that would either condemn or vindicate humanity's place in their peaceful alliance. Taman realized that conventional diplomatic responses would not be sufficient. The council's fear ran too deep and was based on fundamental differences in evolutionary development. They needed to understand that human predatory traits could serve the cause of peace rather than threaten it. You ask us to abandon our nature, he said finally. But perhaps our nature is exactly what the galaxy needs. What happens when your peaceful civilization faces threats from beyond your borders? What happens when crisis demands quick action and decisive response? His words created uncomfortable silence in the chamber. The council species had enjoyed peace for so long that they rarely considered external threats or emergency situations that might require rapid, coordinated response. The session ended without resolution, but the damage was clear. The Galactic Harmony Council was seriously considering rejecting humanity's application for membership. Worse, some members were beginning to discuss the possibility that humans represented a threat that needed to be contained. As the delegates filed out of the chamber, Taman, Dr. Park, and Captain Lee remained behind, surrounded by the weight of their species' uncertain future in the galaxy. 2 weeks after the disastrous council session, Ambassador Tae-min Kim received the formal ultimatum he had been dreading. The document, delivered by a nervous Kethrani messenger, contained terms that would fundamentally change human civilization if accepted. The council demanded that humanity abandon all hunting practices, disband their military forces, and adopt strictly peaceful lifestyles modeled after other council species. Humans would be required to suppress their predatory instincts and prove their commitment to nonviolence through decades of observation and behavioral modification. Taman read the ultimatum 3 times before the full impact sank in. The council was asking humanity to stop being human. They wanted his species to abandon millions of years of evolutionary development and become something they were never meant to be. Captain Lee had arrived at Nexus Station the previous day with a small fleet for what was supposed to be a routine patrol and supply mission. The timing could not have been worse. The sight of human military vessels approaching the station had sent waves of panic through the alien population. The 5 human ships were not particularly large or threatening by Earth standards, but to species that had not seen military vessels in centuries, they appeared as harbingers of conquest. The sleek designs, visible weapon systems, and disciplined crew movements confirmed the Council's worst fears about human intentions. Dr. Park joined Taman and Captain Lee in the human delegation's private quarters to discuss their limited options. The weight of representing their entire species pressed heavily on all 3 of them. We cannot accept these terms, Dr. Park said firmly. They are asking us to deny our fundamental nature. It would be like asking the Kethrani to stop being herbivores or the Gelshi to stop being aquatic. Captain Lee studied tactical displays showing the positions of various alien vessels around Nexus Station. Several Council species have activated their defense forces, he reported. They have no real military experience, but their numbers are significant. They are clearly preparing for some kind of confrontation. Taemin realized that half measures and careful diplomatic language would no longer be sufficient. The Council's fear had reached a point where only dramatic action could change their perspective. He made a decision that would alter humanity's relationship with the galaxy forever. "We need to show them what we really are," he announced. "Not the predators they fear, but the protectors we can be." The next morning, Taemin requested an emergency session before the full council. The chamber was packed with representatives from every member species, along with military advisors who had been hastily appointed despite having no actual military experience. The atmosphere was tense as Taemin walked to the central podium. Whispered conversations in dozens of languages created a constant background murmur. Many aliens had positioned themselves near exits, clearly prepared to flee if the situation became dangerous. "Honored council members," Taemin began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. "You have asked humanity to suppress our nature in order to join your alliance. Before we respond to this ultimatum, we believe you deserve to understand exactly what you are asking us to give up." He gestured toward the chamber's entrance, where Captain Lee and his security team were waiting. "With your permission, we would like to demonstrate human capabilities under controlled conditions." The request sent murmurs of alarm through the assembled delegates. Several species representatives began speaking rapidly to their advisors, clearly debating whether to allow such a demonstration or evacuate immediately. Velthari consulted quickly with other senior council members before responding. "We will permit a limited demonstration, but any sign of aggression will result in immediate termination of these proceedings." The chamber's central area was cleared as Captain Lee led 12 human soldiers to the demonstration space. The soldiers wore standard combat uniforms but carried only training weapons that could not cause permanent harm to any species present. "What you are about to see," Taemin announced, "is how humans respond to crisis situations. These are the same instincts and abilities you have observed in our hunting and survival activities, applied to the protection of others." The demonstration began with a simulated emergency scenario. Hidden speakers played sounds of structural damage and system failures, while lights flickered to simulate power problems. The human soldiers immediately shifted into crisis response mode. The watching aliens were amazed by the speed and coordination of the human response. Without verbal communication, the soldiers organized themselves into teams, assigned roles, and began addressing multiple aspects of the simulated emergency simultaneously. Captain Lee provided commentary as his team worked. "Notice how the soldiers automatically establish communication protocols, secure dangerous areas, and organize evacuation procedures. These are the same pattern recognition and coordination skills we use in hunting, adapted for emergency response." The demonstration continued with increasingly complex scenarios. The humans showed how they would respond to structural collapse, toxic contamination, and multiple casualties. Their ability to think quickly, adapt to changing conditions, and work together under pressure impressed even the most skeptical council members. Dr. Park joined the presentation to explain the scientific basis for human performance. "Our evolutionary development as cooperative hunters gave us unique advantages in crisis situations. We can process multiple information sources simultaneously, make rapid decisions under stress, and coordinate group responses without centralized command." The second part of the demonstration focused on human protective instincts. Captain Lee's team showed how they would defend a civilian population against various threats. Their movements were precise and efficient, showing clearly that their skills were designed to minimize harm to innocents while neutralizing dangers. "These same abilities that allow us to hunt also make us exceptional guardians," Captain Lee explained. "We can read environments quickly, predict threats, and respond with appropriate force. The question is not whether we possess these capabilities, but how we choose to use them." The most dramatic moment came when Captain Lee revealed classified information about threats the Council did not know existed. He activated displays showing long-range sensor data from human exploration vessels. "There are hostile machine intelligences at the galaxy's edge," he announced, causing shocked gasps throughout the chamber. "Automated systems left behind by extinct civilizations are beginning to activate and expand toward inhabited systems." The display showed mechanical swarms consuming entire solar systems, converting matter into more machines in an endless cycle of expansion. The images were terrifying even to species that had never faced military threats. Your peaceful civilizations would be defenseless against such enemies, Captain Lee continued. They show no interest in communication or negotiation. They simply consume and expand. This is why humanity maintains military capabilities, and why we believe the galaxy needs protectors. Commander Choi's voice came through the communication system from orbit. We have been tracking these machine systems for months. They are approximately 50 years away from reaching the outer colonies of Council space. When they arrive, diplomacy and peaceful negotiation will not stop them. The revelation changed the entire dynamic in the chamber. Species that had spent the session fearing human aggression suddenly faced the possibility of threats that would make human military capabilities seem like salvation rather than conquest. Dr. Park presented additional data about human defensive strategies and protective instincts. Human evolution gave us strong drives to protect group members, especially those who cannot protect themselves. We extend these instincts to include allied species and civilian populations. She showed psychological studies demonstrating human willingness to sacrifice personal safety for the protection of others, including members of different species. The same predatory traits that terrified the Council were balanced by equally strong protective instincts. Taemin returned to the podium for his closing statement. You have asked us to abandon our nature and become something we are not. Instead, we offer to serve as guardians of everything you have built. Your peaceful civilization is precious and worth protecting, but it cannot protect itself against every threat the universe might present. The chamber fell silent as the full implications of humanity's offer sank in. The Council faced a choice between their fear of predators and their need for protection against genuine threats they could not handle alone. We do not ask you to become like us, Taemin continued. We ask only that you allow us to remain what we are, and to use our nature in service of peace rather than conquest. The same instincts that make us effective hunters make us devoted protectors of those we consider part of our pack. The session ended with the Council members in obvious turmoil. Everything they thought they knew about civilization, evolution, and the nature of intelligence had been challenged. They would need time to process the revelation that the galaxy contained threats requiring exactly the kind of predatory skills they had been trying to suppress in humanity. As the delegates slowly filed out of the chamber, many cast new looks at the human representatives. Fear was still present, but it was now mixed with sympathy. 3 months after humanity's dramatic presentation to the Galactic Harmony Council, the universe had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Ambassador Taemin Kim, now bearing the title Director of Galactic Security, stood in the command center of Nexus Station watching displays that showed human patrol fleets stationed throughout Council space. The transformation had not happened overnight. The Council had spent weeks debating humanity's offer to serve as protectors of their peaceful civilization. Some species remained fearful of human military capabilities, while others had begun to see those same capabilities as their salvation against unknown threats. The breakthrough came when long-range sensors confirmed Captain Lee's warnings about the approaching machine swarms. Automated probes from the mechanical intelligences had begun appearing at the edges of Council territory, scanning systems and cataloging resources with obvious hostile intent. Velthari entered the command center with a grace that had returned gradually as her species adapted to their new reality. The tall Ketharani leader had become one of humanity's strongest supporters once she understood that predatory instincts could be channeled toward protection rather than conquest. The morning briefing shows 17 new probe contacts, she reported to Taemin. Your patrol vessels have intercepted and destroyed all of them before they could complete their scanning missions. Taemin nodded while studying tactical displays that would have been incomprehensible to most Council species just months earlier. The peaceful aliens had needed to learn an entirely new vocabulary to understand concepts like defensive positions, patrol routes, and threat assessment. Our intelligence suggests the main machine force will reach the outer colonies within 47 years, he replied. That gives us time to prepare adequate defenses, but we cannot become complacent. The irony was not lost on either of them. Species that had evolved beyond the need for military thinking now depended on human predatory instincts for their continued survival. The very traits that had terrified them were now their most valuable assets. Captain Lee arrived for the daily security briefing, accompanied by Dr. Park, who had become the Council's chief advisor on crisis psychology and emergency response. Her expertise in human behavior had proven invaluable in helping alien species understand and adapt to their new reality. The integration programs are showing excellent progress, Dr. Park reported. Council species are learning to recognize threat patterns and respond appropriately to emergency situations. Their natural cooperation instincts adapt well to defensive strategies once they understand the principles involved. The integration she referred to was perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the new alliance. Rather than simply providing military protection, humans had begun teaching other species how to think strategically and respond to crises. The same pattern recognition skills humans used for hunting were being adapted to help peaceful species survive in a more dangerous universe. Ji Hun-yoon had redeemed himself spectacularly in his new role as cross-species cultural liaison. His earlier cultural presentations, which had initially terrified the Council, were now used as training materials to help aliens understand human protective instincts and defensive capabilities. The Quarthan crystals have made remarkable progress in threat detection. Ji-hoon reported via communication link from a training facility on the fourth moon of Kepler, 442b. Their natural harmonic sensing abilities, combined with human tactical thinking, make them excellent early warning systems. The same planet where humans had demonstrated their hunting skills was now a training center where Council species learned to apply human strategic thinking to their own natural abilities. The hunting grounds had become classrooms where predatory instincts were transformed into protective strategies. Commander Yoo-jin Choi's voice crackled through the communication system from her position commanding the outer sector defense. Fleet, contact with machine intelligence, probe cluster 7 Alpha. Engaging with Hunter Squadron. The command center's main display switched to show real-time footage from the engagement. Human fighter craft moved with predatory precision against mechanical enemies that showed no fear, no hesitation, and no mercy. The contrast was stark and educational for the watching Council representatives. Notice how Commander Choi's pilots use pack hunting strategies against individual machine units. Dr. Park narrated for the benefit of alien observers. They isolate targets, attack from multiple angles, and coordinate their strikes to maximize effectiveness while minimizing risk to themselves. The mechanical probes fought with cold efficiency, but they had been designed to face civilizations that relied primarily on technology rather than instinct. Human pilots combined advanced weapon systems with millions of years of evolutionary hunting experience, creating a combination the machines could not predict or counter effectively. Within minutes, the entire probe cluster had been destroyed. The human pilots regrouped and began scanning for additional threats with the same methodical thoroughness their ancestors had used to track prey across ancient savannas. Sector 7 Alpha secured, Commander Choi reported. No machine units escaped to report back to their main force. Estimated time until they noticed the missing probes, 6 to 8 standard days. The successful engagement was routine by current standards, but it represented something unprecedented in galactic history. For the first time, peaceful species were watching predators use their abilities not for conquest or personal gain, but for the protection of others. Mirthlen of the aquatic Gelshi species entered the command center with news from the Council's emergency session. Her previous fear of humans had been replaced by deep gratitude as she realized how completely helpless her species would have been against mechanical enemies. The Council has unanimously approved the expansion of human patrol zones, she announced. All member species have agreed to contribute resources for the construction of additional defense platforms in the outer systems. The decision represented complete trust in human intentions. Species that had initially feared human military capabilities were now voluntarily funding the expansion of those same capabilities. They had learned to distinguish between predatory instincts used for aggression and the same instincts used for protection. Dr. Park's research stations throughout Council space had become centers of learning where humans taught other species to recognize threats, respond to emergencies, and think strategically about their own survival. The educational programs were voluntary, but nearly every Council species had sent representatives to learn from their predatory protectors. The psychological adaptation has been remarkable, Dr. Park noted as she reviewed progress reports. Species that have known only peace for millions of years are learning to think defensively within just months. Their cooperative instincts make them excellent students once they understand that strategic thinking serves peaceful purposes. The transformation was perhaps most evident in the younger generation of council species. Alien children who grew up around humans began displaying behaviors that would have horrified their ancestors. They played games that involved mock hunting and defensive strategies, learning to think tactically while retaining their species' natural peaceful disposition. Timon watched one such group through a viewing window that looked down on the station's recreational areas. Human children and young aliens played together in games that combined human strategic thinking with alien cooperative instincts, creating something entirely new in galactic civilization. They are creating a hybrid culture, he observed to Velthari, human tactical awareness balanced with council species' natural peace-seeking behavior. Perhaps this is what the future of galactic civilization looks like. Velthari nodded, her large eyes showing none of the fear that had once dominated her expression when looking at humans. Your species has given us something we never knew we needed. The ability to preserve our peaceful nature by having guardians who understand the necessity of strategic thinking. The transformation was not without its challenges. Some council members still struggled with the concept of necessary violence, even when used defensively. Others had difficulty understanding human military culture and the psychological requirements of soldiers who might need to take lives to protect others. However, the approaching threat of the machine intelligences provided constant motivation for adaptation. Long-range probes continued to probe council space, testing defenses and gathering intelligence. Each successful interception by human forces reminded the wide, peaceful species why they needed protectors who retained their predatory edge. As the day shift ended and the command center transitioned to night operations, Timon reflected on the extraordinary changes of the past months. Humanity had found its place in galactic civilization, not by becoming less human, but by demonstrating that human nature could serve purposes larger than individual or species survival. The galactic harmony council had learned that true peace sometimes required guardians willing to fight for it. The galaxy had become a safer place because a species of reformed predators had chosen to use their hunting instincts to protect rather than consume. In the end, the council's greatest fear had become their greatest strength. The predators they had dreaded were exactly the allies they. 1 year after the first machine intelligence probe was destroyed, the galaxy had settled into a new rhythm of cooperation between predators and prey that would have seemed impossible just months earlier. Ambassador Timon Kim stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Defense Station Alpha, watching human patrol ships work alongside vessels crewed by council species in perfect coordination. The morning briefing brought news that would have terrified the peaceful species just a year ago, but now was received with calm determination. Long-range sensors had detected the leading edge of the main machine intelligence fleet. Still decades away, but clearly accelerating toward council space. The enemy force is larger than our initial estimates, reported Commander Yu-Jin Choi, her image appearing on the communication screen from her flagship at the galaxy's edge. However, our defense preparations are ahead of schedule thanks to contributions from all council species. The contributions she referenced represented a complete transformation in how the peaceful aliens viewed military preparedness. Species that had never built weapons were now designing shield generators, sensor arrays, and support systems that complemented human military capabilities perfectly. Dr. Park joined the morning briefing from her position as Director of Interspecies Defense Training. Her programs had evolved far beyond simple threat recognition, creating hybrid tactical doctrines that combined human predatory instincts with the unique abilities of each council species. The Kethrani early warning networks are operating at peak efficiency, she reported. Their natural herd instincts have been adapted into sophisticated communication systems that can relay tactical information across entire star systems within minutes. The integration had produced unexpected innovations as human military thinking combined with alien capabilities that had never been used for defensive purposes. The crystalline Quarthan species had learned to use their harmonic resonance abilities to jam machine communications, while the aquatic Gelshi had discovered their water-filtering organs could detect chemical traces left by mechanical scouts. Captain Lee entered the briefing room with news from the inner defense perimeter. His role had expanded from military advisor to the Council's primary strategic coordinator, a position that would have been unthinkable when aliens still feared human predatory instincts. "The machine probes are becoming more sophisticated," he reported. "They are learning from each encounter and adapting their tactics. However, our human crews are adapting faster. The same hunting instincts that allow us to track changing prey behavior are helping us stay ahead of machine learning algorithms." The statement highlighted a crucial advantage that the Council had not anticipated when they first accepted human protection. While machines could process vast amounts of data and modify their programming accordingly, they could not replicate the intuitive adaptability that came from millions of years of evolutionary pressure to outsmart prey and avoid becoming prey themselves. Ji-hoon arrived with representatives from the newest additions to the Alliance, 3 species that had initially refused contact with the Council due to fears about human membership had recently changed their minds. As word spread about the approaching machine threat, the Vorthak Collective has agreed to join the Defense Alliance, Ji-hoon announced. They were initially concerned about human military presence, but their own encounters with machine scouts convinced them that cooperation is necessary for survival. The Vorthak were an insectoid species that had evolved complex hive mind communication systems. Their natural coordination abilities, when combined with human tactical doctrine, created swarm fighting formations that could overwhelm even sophisticated machine units. Dr. Yoon-hai Shin joined the briefing via hologram from her research station on Kepler 442b, which had become the galaxy's primary center for studying machine intelligence behavior. Her scientific analysis of captured machine components had provided crucial intelligence about enemy capabilities and weaknesses. "We have identified a critical vulnerability in machine decision-making systems," she reported excitedly. "They rely heavily on predictable behavior patterns from their targets. Human unpredictability, especially when combined with alien abilities they have never encountered, creates calculation errors that we can exploit." Her discovery explained why human-led forces had been so successful against machine probes. The mechanical intelligences had been designed to fight civilizations that relied primarily on technology and logical tactical decisions. They were not prepared for enemies who combined advanced technology with instinctive, sometimes seemingly irrational tactical choices. The briefing was interrupted by an urgent communication from the outer sensor network. Councillor Zefton's crystalline form pulsed rapidly through the color spectrum as he delivered news that would test everything the Alliance had built. "Major machine force detected in Sector 12, he announced. "This is not a probe mission. Estimated strength, over 300 units of various classifications. They appear to be conducting a systematic survey of our outer colonies." The command center immediately shifted to high alert status. This was the largest machine force ever detected in Council space, and their behavior suggested they were preparing for something more significant than routine reconnaissance. Taemin activated the emergency response. Protocols that had been developed through months of cooperation between human military experience and Council species coordination abilities. Within minutes, defense forces throughout the galaxy began moving according to carefully planned strategies. "All human combat units to alert status 1, he ordered. "Council species defense networks to full activation." This could be the test engagement we have been preparing for. The response was immediate and coordinated in ways that would have been impossible before human integration into Council society. Species that had never faced military threats moved with practiced efficiency to support roles they had trained for but hoped never to use. "Commander," Joy's voice came through the communication system with tactical updates from the front lines. "Contact with machine advance units in 15 minutes. All squadrons report ready status. Council species support networks are functioning perfectly." The waiting period that followed was tense but not panicked. The peaceful species had learned to trust human judgment about military threats, while humans had learned to incorporate alien capabilities into their tactical planning. The Alliance had become something greater than the sum of its parts. When the engagement began, it demonstrated everything the Alliance had achieved. Human pilots used predatory instincts to outmaneuver machine units, while Council species provided sensor data, communication coordination, and technical support that enhanced human effectiveness far beyond what either side could achieve alone. The battle lasted 3 hours and ended with complete destruction of the machine force. Not a single mechanical unit escaped to report back to their main fleet. The cost to Alliance forces was minimal, with only minor damage to a few vessels and no casualties among any species. In the aftermath, as damage reports and tactical analysis flowed through the command networks, the true significance of the victory became clear. The galaxy's peaceful civilizations had not only survived their first major test against the machine intelligences, they had won decisively. Velthari arrived in the command center as the all-clear signals were transmitted throughout Council space. Her presence symbolized how completely the relationship between humans and Council species had transformed over the past year. "Your people have saved us all," she said to Taimin, her large eyes showing gratitude rather than the fear that had once dominated her expression when looking at humans. "Our people," Taimin corrected gently. "Humans could not have achieved this victory without Council species support, and Council species could not have survived without human protection. We have become something new together." The truth of his statement was evident in every aspect of the engagement they had just won. Human tactical abilities enhanced by alien technological and sensory capabilities had created a defense force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Dr. Park's analysis of the battle confirmed what everyone already understood. "The machine intelligences were not prepared for our hybrid tactics," she reported. "They expected to face either purely technological defenses or primitive biological responses. Our combination of human predatory instincts with Council species cooperative abilities created tactical solutions they could not predict or counter." As news of the victory spread throughout the galaxy, more species began requesting membership in the Alliance. The approaching machine threat had convinced even the most isolationist civilizations that cooperation was necessary for survival. The galaxy was changing in fundamental ways. Peaceful species were learning that sometimes protection required allies willing to fight, while predatory species were discovering that their greatest strength lay in defending others rather than conquering them. In the months that followed, the Alliance continued to grow and evolve. Human children grew up playing with alien youngsters, learning that strength could be used to protect rather than dominate. Council species young learned strategic thinking and crisis response, developing hybrid cultures that combined peaceful cooperation with defensive awareness. The machine intelligences continued their approach toward the galaxy's core, but they now faced something they had never encountered in their previous conquests, an alliance of species that had transformed their greatest differences into their greatest strengths. The predators that the Council had once feared had become the guardians of everything they valued. The peaceful civilizations that humans had initially misunderstood had become the foundation of something worth fighting to preserve. Together they had created a new model for galactic civilization, one where differences were celebrated rather than feared, where natural abilities were channeled toward mutual protection, and where the galaxy's greatest threats were met by its most unlikely but effective alliance. The machine intelligences were still coming, but they would find a galaxy united and ready. Predators and prey had learned to work together, creating something stronger than either could ever be alone. The galaxy had found its guardians, and its guardians had found their purpose,